Welcome to Doing Good here on your evening escape on 938 Now. Now, the inaugural Singapore Mental Health Film Festival aims to challenge the social stigma surrounding mental illness and decrease the discrimination faced by those affected by it. Now, this festival, the 2019 festival themes focus on dementia and youth mental wellness. Film, panel discussions and workshops will be used as modalities to foster a spirit of compassion and acceptance, with the understanding that we all have personal stories and that having a mental illness does not make us any less of a human being. Well, I'm very pleased to welcome into the studio Cheryl, who is the festival director of the film festival. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, Cheryl, let's just start with, this is the inaugural one, of course, 2019, which is happening towards the end of February. Why did you decide to launch Singapore's first mental health film festival?
It really is an initiative starting from my own social organization, the Breathe Movement. So we use yoga-based philosophies to increase the emotional and mental resiliency within an individual. And over the years, I've been really trying to figure out how can I reach out to the masses to speak about mental illnesses and to speak about mental wellness and to speak about trauma and how does it affect us on a physical, mental, emotional level. And so it really happened about in October 2017 when I just I was at a projector and it was my birthday.
Oh.
And I kind of just felt like, I was watching the film and I was like, hey, what about if we do a film festival centered on mental illnesses and talk about mental illnesses and stuff. And so from one conversation led to next, and then I was put in touch with the projector and everyone thought, oh, it's such a great idea. So then I did my first grant application to the Tote Board Healthcare Fund, put everything from my head onto paper. And that was scary in itself. and then it just took off from there. I recruited my creative director, who is actually my really good friend from high school. Recruited my media as well, who's also my very good friend from high school. And we worked together to bring this idea into
fruition, which it is, and that must be thrilling for you, because I did go onto the website. I had a look at what the movies are, but it's not just all about musicals. There's workshops and discussions, etc. as well. So it's a full-on 3-day festival for you. 4-day, beg your pardon, 4-day. What are you hoping that this film festival will achieve?
What I really wanted to do was to, of course, we are challenging the stigma. We wanted people to go in there to watch the film, and I think the film would actually bring about, emotions and give people a different perspective as to, what goes on behind the scenes as to a person living with a mental illness, and also for the caregivers, the families, the youth in the family. And then I didn't really want people to just walk at a theater and just, that was just a film. So that's why we are bringing in experts from different places, like the Institute of Mental Health, the Singapore Association of Mental Health, and various other agencies, both in private and public sector, as well as caregivers themselves and persons who are recovering from mental illness, to give some kind of a real life account as to what is really going on right now in Singapore in this mental health scene. What are the resources and tools available in Singapore? So we kind of want to bring that approach as well into the conversation. And then the workshops are happening as well, because it kind of I wanted to bring a whole 360 kind of take to the festival, where the films and the panel discussions are a bit more extrinsic. They have a bit of an intrinsic kind of value to it, but the workshops are really the part that really is individualized. So you're really able to feel and really able to move and really articulate how you were feeling with the guidance of the facilitators. So we brought on, including myself, that we 8. So 8 of us would be, holding space for people during the festival in the workshop portion. So it's a really 360 view about how can we see mental health as something that's really important to all of us.
Yeah, and as you say, people have the opportunity then to share within an environment like that they feel comfortable in as well. I mean, sometimes it's not easy to share something like that. And, you know, I've seen statistics of other guests who have come on to Doing Good on Your Evening Escape, and they've shared some statistics of how mental illness is, you know, it's getting perhaps a larger problem, a larger issue, would you say?
A larger issue.
I mean, it's becoming more prominent.
It is
in
definitely
society.
I think people are more willing to share these days. People are more willing to acknowledge as well each other. That maybe someone's going through a mental health distress. So I think that's where we are at right now. Plus, we have had a lot of high-profile deaths, and, you know, for a very long time. But, you know, just in the past year, we had a few high-profile deaths. So I think the conversation is definitely, you know, building up right now. But I would like to also mention that during the panel conversations, we try to keep it really safe.
Yeah.
So we partnered up with Pigeonhole, so people can actually write their questions and submit it wirelessly, and then so they don't need to, like, you know, stand up in front of a big audience and ask a question. So we really try to keep it really safe and supportive for everyone in the audience, so that, you know, you can ask any question you want. And of course, we'll be moderating the questions for sure. But we more or less want people to be able to voice their concerns out in a very safe way.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Cheryl. The films that you'll be screening across the 4 days, share some of those titles with us, and why you chose them.
We chose, so like you mentioned, we have youth mental wellness and we have dementia. So our opening film, No Letting Go, it's American, really chose that because when I watched it for the first time, I was bawling my eyes out. I was so taken in the story, and it's also based on a real life story, and the script writer is actually the mother in real life.
Wow.
So such an amazing story. You know, how they kind of like work together as a family, or maybe not really work together because the parents didn't really. I shouldn't give any spoilers, really.
No spoilers allowed.
No spoilers allowed. But it really talked about what goes on in a family when someone has a mental illness, and different ways that, you know, we are doing to cope with, like, you know, with like, you know, someone with a condition like that. And then the other films we chose, Much Too Young as well. It's a great film. It's a great documentary, Canadian. And it's really talking about how young caregivers, so we're talking about, say, 18 to their 20s, they're caring for a parent who has young onset dementia.
Right.
So then they would have to put a stop to their own lives, school, work, you know, wanting to make a family and stuff like that. They would really have to put a stop to that because they would have to take care of their family member. And oftentimes, I think it's, and, you know, I work very closely together with Melissa from Project We Forgot, and, you know, we speak a lot about such issues and what kind of resources are available for young caregivers in Singapore. It's a conversation that really needs to take flight because young caregivers themselves, they are not the ones going through the mental crisis. And it's really hard for them to go out there and articulate and say, like, you know, they have a caregiver's guilt as well. And there is support in Singapore, but I think we should have a lot more support for the young.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think sometimes we forget about the caregiver. Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of the films as well, we talk about the caregivers. We talk about, for example, like No Letting Go, we had 2 screenings. So the second screening is about how can a youth cope in a family with a person with a mental illness. So it's so important to talk about such things because, yeah, they kind of get sidelined, especially the young, because the focus is really on the person going through the mental crisis, which isn't wrong, but still I think it takes a community to really take care of each other. Like, for example, like the educators at school, the neighbors and everything. I think it's important that we kind of like know what's going on in our environment.
Very, very well said, Cheryl. Let's talk about the important details now of where the festival is happening, when it's happening, and how people can, I guess, also participate, or how our listeners can support you as well.
It's going to be, all the films and panels will be at the projector. And the workshops will be one level below, so ZAR collaboratives. It's a gallery space. It will be on the 21st, 24th of February this month. You can go on to our website at www.smhff.com for more details.
Fantastic, gosh. And I guess if people want to get involved themselves, whether it's volunteering or somehow sharing something with you, is that possible?
We had like so many people coming to us for volunteer roles, and we're really, really grateful to the community for wanting to step up and to like, really contribute to a cause like that. So we unfortunately really had to close our volunteer platform, I think early January, but we cannot express how much gratitude we have to the community. In terms of, what was your second question?
Oh, just how people can not just participate, but sort of, I guess, support the festival in other ways.
We can definitely do with more.
Okay.
Financial support.
Well, I mean, as you said, you had to close your volunteers off, which is a fantastic sign, Cheryl. So I imagine we're going to see one in 2020, and hopefully another, number 2 festival as well.
Hopefully we get to see another 2020. I think on a more serious note, I think the whole festival is really run by a startup, I would say a relatively small social organization.
Yeah.
And we would definitely welcome more corporations to really take note on how important mental health is, not just to their employees, but also to the youth, and that can just be the employees' children, but really is for the future of Singapore. So I think if it takes a community to work together to eradicate a stigma like such, we need some corporate support.
Fantastic.
So that would be the hope for 2020. We really hope to bring you guys another round of a film festival.
Yeah, with these workshops and discussions, which are very, very important. Cheryl Tan, I can't thank you enough for coming in and talking to us on Doing Good on your evening escape on 938 now. I've been speaking with Cheryl Tan, festival director and founder, right?
That's right.
Of the Singapore Mental Health Film Festival. And just hit me with that website one more time.
www.smhff.com.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time on Doing Good.